listening to Dr. King's famous April 1967 speech. And may I remind us today, this was King's most incisive and controversial speech beyond Vietnam. Delivered April 4th, 1967, that precisely a year to the date after the speech would have caused him to be assassinated as he spoke out against the war and took on, as my young brother has alluded to earlier, the giant triplets of racism, extreme materialism, and militarism. Listen again to what he said. I'm convinced that we as a nation must undergo a radical revolution of our values. We must rapidly begin the shift from a thing-oriented society to a people-oriented society, where machines and computers, profit motives, and property rights are considered more important than people. The giant triplets of racism, materialism, and militarism are incapable of being conquered. Perhaps that's what we are experiencing today, as communities of people respond to the darkness, the chaos, the injustice of humanity of just a few weeks ago, as many of us watched it unfold in Ferguson, and only to relive it once again a week later in New York City. The lives of young black people are being taken daily. But even in the midst of that image, we see yet another image of people, especially of our beautiful young people all around this country who are standing up for right. And I need to tell you that that makes my heart ring. There is this midwifing through young sisters and brothers, many of them in this room this morning, walking the streets in peaceful protest. Tired of living in darkness, agitating a system that refuses to treat all people as equal, black, red, brown, yellow, women and men together, from Los Angeles to Philadelphia and Washington, D.C. to Chicago, and here in Colorado Springs. People, young people who are sensitive, socially conscious, the justice-infused, radiating with light, bringing out the God colors in the world and exposing the darkness that comes from injustice. This is the reality of King's dream. This is our destiny. This is the radical revolution of values that will conquer the giant triplets. May I also caution you this morning that if we protest, if we go out and return home without connecting to anyone we protested alongside, then we have yet more work to do. Forging new relationships is the hard, loving, messy, and complicated work that happens when we are doing the work, the real work of justice. Black men holding signs while truly believing women should be the background noise in a liberation movement. Black folks screaming hashtag Black Lives Matter while truly believing that LGBT people are going to hell. White and brown folks screaming hashtag Black Lives Matter at a march or as a part of their daily protest while not working to undo institutional forms of anti-black racism that they might benefit from. Marching and chanting and protesting under the auspices of hashtag Black Lives Matter without the thought for the undocumented who may be an extra cautious because of police interaction. Now, even march or chant at all. These are all reasons we must continue to self-reflect and try our very best to unite around politics that are inclusive of all. Friends, we must be willing to ask ourselves hard questions. Questions like, do I take part in sheltering the giant triplets? What is my part in the violence whose monster mode is militarism? What part do I play in sleeping unaware of the reality of strangers whose monster mode is racism? What is my part in craving control over things whose monster mode is extreme militarism? I like to think of King's dream not in terms of one single speech, but in the totality of all that he said and how he lived his life before us. King speaks to us, yea, he speaks even to us gathered on this campus this morning. And he speaks in prophetic language as he charges and challenges this nation of ours and the world of how we must strive for a beloved community. Listen to what Dr. King says from his last book, Where Do We Go From Here? Chaos or Community? He says that some years ago a famous novelist died. Among his papers was found a list of suggested plots for future stories, and most prominently underscored being this one: a widely separated family inherits a house in which they have to live together. This is the great new problem of humankind. We have inherited a large house, a great world house, in which we have to live together as black and white, Easterner and Westerner, Gentile and Jew, Catholic and Protestant, Muslim and Hindu, a family unduly separated in ideas, culture, and interests, who, because we can never again live apart, must learn somehow how to live together in peace.